All right, on number 5, the first thing that I need you to do is change that problem so that it is 2x squared minus 7x minus 4 equals 0. The one that was originally on there was not factored, or not factorable, so you will get a factorable one. We're going to factor this the same way that we did the last one and solve it the same way we did the last one. It's just going to be slightly different because the number in front of the x squared, a, is not 1. So the box, 2x squared in the lower corner, negative 4 in the upper corner. Multiply those together. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8, x squared. Take your center term, or your x term, put it on the bottom, so negative 7x. And then factor 8. 1 and 8, 2 and 4. Top's negative, bottom's negative. That means that which factor needs to be negative? Large or small? It's actually going to be the larger one because you want them to add up to get a negative. So you have to have the bigger number be negative to overcome that. So my pair of these that adds up to negative 7 is 1 and negative 8. So 1x, negative 8x, and those go in the boxes. Here's where a lot of people struggle a little bit, because you have to be pretty careful about where you take out, what you take out, because this is no longer going to be just x and x, because I have this 2x here. So if I look at this column and I look at this column, this row, the only one that I can take a 2x out of is this column, because 1 is not divisible by 2. So I factor out a 2x from this column and then put an x over here. So 8x divided by 2x gives me negative 4, 1. And we multiply those two to get negative 4 to double check that we're correct. So 2x plus 1 equals 2x plus 1 times x minus 4 equals 0. That's my factored form, and now I'm going to use zero product property to solve like we did last time. So 2x plus 1 equals 0, x minus 4 equals 0, and solve them separately. Subtract 1 from both sides, so 2x equals negative 1. Divide by 2, so x equals negative 1/2. That's one of my answers. And then over here, add 4 to both sides, so I'm left with x equals 4, and I am done. That one also was chapter 7. All right, numbers 6 and 7 are both from chapter 9. So, when we simplify a radical expression, radical is that square root sign. So that is what you do when you cannot take the perfect square root of something. 12 does not have a perfect square root, neither does 27. So what we're going to do is we're going to factor those until we find a perfect square root. Or a perfect square. So the factors of 12 are 1 and 12. So that can be broken down to square root of 1, square root of 12. 2 and 6, so square root of 2, square root of 6. Square root of 3, square root of 4. Those are actually all my factors. Which pair is helpful there?
The 3 and 4 and 6 and 2.
Just the 3 and 4, because neither 6 nor 2 has a perfect square root.
What about 3 and 4?
3 doesn't, but 4 does. So I'm going to take the square root of 4 and put it in the front. So what's the square root of 4? 2. So this is going to be 2 square root of 3. So that is rewriting that. Now I'm going to do the same thing to 27. What are my factors of 27? Not divisible by 2. Is it divisible by 3? 3 and 9. So square root of 3, square root of 9, and that's the one I'm going to use. 9 has a perfect square root. 3 doesn't have any other factors.
3 and 3.
Yep, so this one's going to be 3 square root of 3, because I take the square root of 9, put that out front, drop down the square root of 3. And then what do I put in between those two?
Oh, plus.
Plus.
So everything in the front just drops down of the first square.
So then I want to see if I can reduce this any further. What do you think?
Nope.
If I had 2x plus 3x, what would that be? 5x. So, since I have 2 square root of 3 plus 3 square root of 3, what do you suppose that's going to be?
5 plus 6.
5 square root of 3.
What? Oh.
And that's your answer. That is as simplified as you can get, getting as much out of the square root sign as you possibly can.
So you left the 3 as it is?
Okay, number 7 is also from chapter 9, but it takes into account some of the skills that you have from chapter 6, most specifically the FOIL method. So I'm going to write this out with everything not simplified at all, and then we'll go from there. So we use the FOIL method, multiply our first terms, which are square root of 3 times square root of 3.
Hello.
Multiply our outside terms. So the next pair we multiply is our outside term, square root of 3 and 2. So I'm going to write that as plus 2 square root of 3. Then our inside terms, that's a negative 2, so negative 2 square root of 3.
Oh, wait.
And our last terms, negative 2 times positive 2, so negative 2 times positive 2. So that's our completely unsimplified version. You will find ways to shorten this if it makes sense to you. So square root of 3 times square root of 3, that is the square root of 9, which is what? 3. 2 square root of 3 minus 2 square root of 3 is what? If I give you $2 and then take it away, how much do you have? 0. So remember, it's the positive and negative of the same thing, so that is 0. And then what's negative 2 times 2?
What?
Negative 2 times 2.
Oh,
Negative
negative 4.
4. So 0, I don't need to drop down. Negative 4, I'm going to drop down. So this is 3 minus 4, which gives me negative 1.